Welcome back to episode number 85. We're getting there, closing in on the 100. What are we? 15 episodes. That will put us, I don't know, 4 months. What's 4 months from now? Right around the new year, maybe a little bit after the new year.
Look at that.
Yeah. Episode number 85. Mac Couture, as usual, here with Zach Pruitt. Ben is prioritizing family tonight. That loser.
Just the worst.
Yeah, just the worst. But that's all right. We got plenty to talk about today. It's going to be a loaded episode. Boston Red Sox, they're flying high, hence the episode title, and a little bit of a pun on what they're riding today. And have you seen the new Story Turbulence shirt that he was wearing today?
No, I didn't see that. Is that in reference to the plane
it's like a picture with like Wally and like the players with their arms out. It's pretty good looking.
That's awesome.
But that's where we're going to start. The Boston Red Sox are on a damn roll, to put it lightly. They've won, I think it's 6 in a row now. 8 of their last 10, even better for that than over their last like 15 or so. I believe they're 15-2 at home over the last 17, which is just flat out ridiculous.
They're crushing it. Yeah.
Leave it to the sports radio to contemplate if they're cheating, but we won't get into that.
Exactly.
But what are your thoughts right now on how things are playing out? What you're seeing and how things are rolling right now for the Boston Red Sox?
I mean, I'm fully back and bought in. It's in a strange place with Breslow and the team, because every time he makes a move, doesn't make a move, like at the deadline, kind of a dud, to be honest. But I want to be able to complain. I want to have something to hold on to that he's wrong, or I'm going to stick it to him. But everything is turning up heads for the guy. It's every move he's made or not made has worked out. The team has responded, and I guess retaliated might be the wrong word, but they're playing out of their minds right now. And I mean, to Breslow's credit, a lot of how they've responded post-deadline, post-Devers, has to do with the locker room. What he said, Devers was last year. Guys, Lee Jansen and guys like Devers basically saying, calling out Breslow and Chaim Bloom in years past for not making moves. And it showed up as, on the field. This year's different. This year, the team's fully bought in. The young kids are producing, performing. When one guy's not, the next guy's stepping up. The pitching staff is incredible. Bullpen, same thing. So, you said I think I saw last night was their 7th win in a row, and they've won 9 of 10 or whatever. And honestly, they're a rain delay away from another 10-game win streak. So it's hard to find anything to complain about. Yankees keep losing, which is always a good thing too. I think I saw today we're 3.5 up on the Yankees for the second wild card spot, and we're 2.5 out of AL East on the division. So I can't find a thing to complain about right now.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of putting it on the mark right now. I think, when we watched this team developing over the last couple of years, we kind of said, like, all right, like, when these young guys are here and, like, all right, the future's going to be bright and, it's a matter of just waiting. And everyone was like, well, we don't want to wait. We don't want to wait. I agreed. We're at that situation now where, like, despite ownership's lack of commitment, these young guys, thanks to good drafting over the last 5 years, has turned this team into a playoff. I think they're at a 81% chance, I think, to make the playoffs right now.
Yeah,
a playoff team. Plain and simple, they're getting brought up in the teams on the rise from these young guys. Abreu, who's playing very well. How'd they get them in the Vasquez trade? Really good trade by Bloom. Rafaela has broken out. Good pick by Dombrowski. Duran, I mean, he's been here for a few years, but Roman Anthony obviously has been outstanding since he's kind of gotten going. And we'll touch on his extension. But you can just continue to go down. Trevor Story's finally showing like shades of who he really was back in Colorado.
Yep.
Bregman was a good signing. Even guys like Turo and Romy Gonzalez are playing their part in this team in bringing it to the next level. And then, like you said, on the pitching staff, guys like Bayo has taken his game to another level. His swing and miss percentage is up significantly from prior years. That's been the biggest difference for him. He's making batters miss more often. It's not that he's necessarily having huge changes in his pitch style or anything like that. He's just missing bats more. Giolito's been great. Bueller's been a little better as of late. We're going to see Dustin May tonight. And then the bullpen as a whole has been pretty good overall. Chapman's been deadly. Slayton is on his way back. Steven Matz has been good so far since coming in. As a whole, like the team, I'm kind of waiting for and maybe this is just like I don't want to say pessimistic, but just fear over the last few years. But I'm kind of waiting for them to implode, right?
Yeah.
You're like, when is the reels going to fall off, and when are they going to go downhill, and you're going to go back to being miserable? But they continue to do the opposite for me, and that's kind of the surprising part so far over the last few weeks is that they're not falling off the ship so far. Not only that, they're going the opposite direction, right?
Yeah, I mean, you'll have the entire series really where they don't give up a run or they give up minimal runs. The only guy with the exception is Jorge Alcala, who I think they DFA'd him if they didn't send him down, but then they brought up, Isaiah Campbell is kind of one of the same. I was surprised they didn't go with Bernardino to bring him back, but same thing. I think
he's dealing with something, so they just instead of putting him down, I don't know. They also have a ton of lefties now.
Yeah, that's true. With Matt's coming in too. So
Matt's, they got Murphy, they got Wilson, they got Chapman. So it's like 5 lefties in the bullpen
that's a force.
Tough, which was a little bit of the question when they moved for Matt's. Which no one will care if Matt's is good, but like when they made that move, the question was like, all right, like you already had 4 lefties in the bullpen.
Right.
Where is that going to play into down the road? But I mean, Bernardino was pretty good here, so like certainly doesn't hurt to have depth in the bullpen.
Him, no, I think him and Weiser, one of the two, certainly needed a break. We've been using those guys into the ground, so I feel like to your point, the lefty was the one to get sent down. But yeah, I mean, the bullpen, you're right. I think it's been a point of weakness for so many years that you said it, myself included, that like we just kind of wait to see who is going to be the one to shit the bed, and nobody is. It's the opposite. It's even to the point of like guys we didn't trust before are now coming in and shutting the door. So and same could be said. You said it about Bayo and Giolito. Like we're no longer at a point where we dread a Bayo day or we dread a Giolito day. Or you almost expect them to go out and do 6 shot with 2 hits allowed and 4, 5, 6 Ks, whatever. So we're in a good spot. Everyone seems to be producing. Everyone seems to be going business as usual. And again, the pessimist in me is looking for something to just complain about, and even I'm having a hard time finding something to do. So,
yeah, for me, the floor just continues to rise. Right, 2 months ago, they were sub 500, and the expectations weren't high, and then now it's like, anything but the playoffs is a massive failure at this point. They're 3.5 games up in the top wildcard spot. So
yeah, something like that.
They got plenty of room to breathe at the moment. So like everything's in their hands. They just went through the Astros, swept the Astros without Crochet pitching in that series. They've come here and they've won the last 2 versus Kansas City. They look like a team that's just kind of bought in comparatively to prior years.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a little bit worried of how coming out of the deadline that they were going to perform and how they were going to look. And you know, I think part of it for them, and this is the difference in prior years, and not to single out guys like Bogarts and Devers, but not I wouldn't call the word entitled, but they were big enough voices in that locker room that when they weren't adding, they were vocal about it to the point where it was disrupting the locker room.
100%.
Right now, you have guys, leaders like Trevor Story and Jaron Duran, who are both, veteran leaders in the locker room, but they're not the type of leaders that are like overly outspoken,
Right.
in terms of like to the media and stuff like that. And they're more just generally positive guys inside that locker room, into to the sense of it's like, they didn't add probably to the extent that vets like, Trevor Story was really looking for. He was probably hoping for more, but it's all right. We're going to, take this in stride and we're going to ride. And the overall vibe of the locker room is a lot younger, so you're not going to get like guys like Roman Anthony, Marcelo Mayer, Rafael Abreu. These guys aren't going to like come out and like trash management at their ages. Which one thing, it's just kind of things you don't do at that young. You got to kind of earn your stripes, but it's also just like their place in the locker room is more of like, being the young guys.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of been a big difference for them, is they need to be more vocal. They need to just be more of just like play baseball. And that's one thing that they struggled with in prior years, and right now they're doing that. They're just, let's go out and play ball, and they're playing it at a high tote right now.
High level. And you look at guys like Bregman too. You talk about like a veteran presence. One of the things going into the year was they didn't have a lot of veterans, especially veterans who had won. And then you bring in a guy like Bregman. Chapman isn't as vocal maybe in the locker room, but he's someone who's won. But someone like Bregman, even when he was hurt, he was helping, watch the iPad, watch swings, watch just helping Anthony and Meyer and all these young guys come up and notice like trends and how they're dipping or whatever the case is. So that has been just a tremendous add. And I'm sure, to your point of, I'm sure he wanted Breslow to add a bit more at the deadline as well, but just his impact on the field, obviously you can see it. It's immense, but even as off the field, and everyone says it, was just how helpful and how vocal and how, no, I don't think you can get a better veteran presence than Bregman. How hard is that to say?
They really have a good. I think Bregman and Story are very, very good leaders for this young group.
100%.
They're not guys that have that me attitude. They're guys that just kind of want to ride and be leaders for these young guys, be examples for these young guys, come out, play hard every day. And then Duran, he's a little bit of a different personality, and there's been questions of like his leadership in the locker room. But as a whole, I think he brings a different flair of leadership, a little bit more swagger of leadership to the locker room, which I think in many ways, as long as they have guys like Story and Bregman, blends kind of well, right? They do have that core. Now, like I said, if Duran was like the core leader, I don't know if maybe you're questioning it, but the combination with him and guys like Bregman and Story, Crochet is still pretty young, but obviously he's a prominent name in personality in that locker room. And then you got obviously the veteran guys like that, whether you're going into like the Duran, even guys like David Hamilton, who's not exactly good. They're good personalities. In the locker room, and even like I said, in keeping in that trend, like even the lower level guys like Romy Gonzalez and like Rob Refsnyder, like these are guys that like just play their part, and they're very, very much just team players.
Yeah, it feels like everyone knows their place here.
Biggest difference I think this year. I mean, even during the All-Star break, I think if you remember, we saw that video went around of Romy hanging out with Roman Gonzalez and Marcelo Mayer, like the three of them are hanging out.
On Nantucket, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like those little things, they have a really good balance of personalities here that are vibing very well. And I think they're to an extent they're playing a little bit above expectation and a little bit above their talent. But I give that props to guys like Andrew Bailey and Alex Cora right now, where they're hitting the right buttons. I mean, the pitching staff has been very good this year, especially over the last like 6 to 8 weeks, as we've seen Giolito and Bayo kind of emerge. And then even guys like Romy Gonzalez has been huge, just huge for them this year.
100%.
Absolutely huge. When it comes down to Bregman's injury, Marcelo's injury, needing to play third, needing to play second, needing to play first, he's been able to fill in across the diamond. He's hitting lefties tremendously. He's even hitting righties, relatively well. And guys like he's been a huge factor. Obviously, Ref Snyder, we know what he is. He crushes lefties like it's his job.
Yeah.
From top to bottom, they're getting help from every direction, and that's what good teams do. And then, prior to early in the season, what they're not doing right now is A, they're not making as much dumb mistakes, and B, they're making the plays when they need to. Right.
Yes.
That was kind of the big, like the 6th, 7th, 8th inning. They seemed early in the year, they seemed to like have a blunder or bonehead decision or, guy on third, nobody out, down 1 run in the 7th, and you don't get him in type of thing. And they've just been much, much, much better with that. And man, it's just refreshing.
No, it is. It's almost like two different teams. Like everything we complained about at the beginning of the year, you said it, the stupid mistakes, the mental errors, the everything down the list from, the pitching staff to the hitting coach. We were talking about let's get, maybe a new pitching coach in here. Let's get like Pete Fatsi out, whatever the case. And it's completely gone the other direction where now we're praising everybody. Like just, we stayed the course.
Yeah, I mean, it's typical. Like when things are going well, it's like you give credit where credit's due. And when things aren't going well, you do the same thing. We were talking 6 to 8 weeks ago, like, questioning Alex Cora.
100%.
And he deserved it. Like they weren't playing well, and he deserves that hype. But right now, props to him. He's got the train rolling very well. And speaking on to the rise of this team, Roman is king. I think he might be a little bit biased, but calling Roman Anthony next Kyle Tucker, the Sox extended Roman Anthony today in a move that I was hoping that they would do all along. I was very pessimistic if Roman Anthony would do a deal. He did decide to do it. It buys out at least 3 years of his free agency, which is just I can't express to you how big that is. If you believe in him the way I do, and I think a lot of people do, and even in like there's escalators in this clause make it a lot higher than the 130 million that it's saying. I think it can go up to like 230.
Yeah,
no matter what. Yeah, no matter what, this deal is just huge for them if you believe in the Red Sox, right?
Totally. The only one that they haven't really.
Bradley apparently his back was tight from the weight of the contract negotiations. Yeah, I mean, perhaps that was it. He was, like I said, just nothing short of. He's been nothing short of great the last 6 to 8 weeks. And they're in a situation now where, if he is who we thought he was or thought he is, those years are going to be, I think it's like age 28, 29, 30, and 31 that they might have bought out. That is like the peak of his career.
Yes.
Right. And so if they bought out, I think they can buy out up to 9 years in the deal, or maybe up to 10. Letting it, let's just say that he walks at the end of that deal. Like, it's much more less heartbreaking if a star walks at 31, 32 years old than
Then at
like
28, 27.
then at like 28, you know what I mean, 28 years old. Like we're
Yeah.
seeing it right now. I don't want to claim victory because I think it is a little bit early, but the Mookie Betts deal,
Yeah.
losing him was a poor decision. Don't get me
Yes.
wrong. And they should have gave him at the time the 10 years, 300. If that supposedly was going to get done, I don't know. But
Yeah.
I've been very vocal for the longest time with Betts that when he gets into his mid-30s, things are going to fall off. He's not built to last into his mid-30s. And so he is now, I think, 32, maybe 33. And he's having the worst year he's had arguably in his career, or at least since his early years. I know he's dealt with a little bit of injuries and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong. Like I said, I'm not claiming victory yet because I think he can still turn it around a little bit and be a pretty good ball player for another couple of years. But I think the days of peak Mookie are gone.
Of course they are.
That's kind of what I'm going for, right? The peak days of Mookie Betts are gone. I think that he'll still be a good ball player. I don't know if he'll ever be elite again. I don't know if he'll ever be like great again. And so now they're going to be looking at this contract, and he's under contract till he's 40 years old.
Yeah.
Right. So he's under contract for another, I think it's like 7 years after this, maybe 8 years after this. And they're going to owe him a lot of money. In the Dodgers, they don't really give a shit clearly about money. But the Dodgers owners just bought the Lakers, so maybe he's going to want to pull back. I don't know. Probably.
Yeah,
not.
we'll see. But it is.
Yeah,
it's similar to Miguel Cabrera's body was certainly not built to break down the way, and he was even having a 200 season. So it's certainly doesn't look good. But yeah, to your point of letting someone walk at 31 versus 27 is certainly valid and certainly the right move.
Yeah, they should have kept him. Don't get me wrong, but and that's on ownership. But the deal that the Dodgers are going to be dealing with is not going to be a good deal, and it's already kind of showing like that. It's going to just look worse and worse as the years go on. And again, I don't think he's going to be bad over the next few years, but he's going to be, I think, going forward, a guy that hits 260s, maybe 270s, hits like 15 to 20 home runs, and I think he'll still play a pretty good defense overall. He'll swipe some bags, but I think he's going to be a guy that's like, he's a good player, not a great player, not elite, not the prime Mookie Betts, not the guy that's worth $30 million a year over for the next 7 years. But going back to Roman Anthony, this locks him up to a point now where even if he happened to leave at age 31, you got his prime years. You literally got his prime. And obviously he'll still probably be good. Most players are still good in 31, 32, 33, 34. Mm-hmm. But you locked up what looks to be your best player for the next 9 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And on top of that, and in props to Breslow, like Bayo, that deal right now looks significantly better than it did 4 months ago. Rafaela, 100%. That deal looks significantly better than it did 4 months ago. We'll see how things play out with Christian Campbell, obviously, his extension and all that. But he seems to be coming around back in AAA and figuring it back out. But they're set up now to be a real contender for years to come. And props to Craig Breslow. I think he got a lot of hate and a lot of noise from the deadline, which in large part was deserving. But he's made a lot of good moves over the last few years.
He really has.
From the Navarez trade recently, granted, given up ERC, he's been really good for the Yankees in the farm system so far. But Navarez has been a really nice pickup. Romy Gonzalez was a nobody, came here and has been a great pickup. Toro, great pickup. Bregman, great signing. He didn't do a ton in the outfield, really. I mean, but good extension, Rafael, good extension, Bayo, good extension, Roman Anthony. On the pitching side of things, Lucas Giolito, things looked rough when he got injured. Granted, how did Breslow could never predicted that, but he's been great. Chapman, great signing. Peyton Tolley is rushing through the minors, because the guy's just dominating. And guys like Richard Fitz, not that he's been a huge piece, but you got that for Alex Verdugo.
I'd take anything for him, Verdugo.
As a whole, Craig Breslow has been good.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's positive moves for this team.
For sure. And it's hard to – that's what I mean. I look for things – and again, it's just my pessimistic side just the past 5 years. I look for things to complain about, and my knee-jerk reaction when he, as I said, trades Devers and does nothing at the deadline is to look for something to complain about. And then you wait a week, wait 2 weeks, and it's he actually knew what he was doing, and he's been really, really good. You talked about the extensions that he made – before the deal, and you talk about the core of this team, the Crochets, the Roman Anthony's now, the Rafaelas,
the Crochet deal, a great deal,
the exactly,
and the Crochet extension. The Crochet extensions might be even better.
That's what I mean. You're locking up your core, the core of this team, the young core of this team for through the rest of the 2020s, and even into mid 2030s. On very reasonable deals, and you're okay, you want to talk about what the Braves have been doing, what the Dodgers have been doing. Well, now you're kind of doing that as well. And if you can get Christian Campbell to actually be a contributor on this team, then you have a hell of a team and you have a hell of a core moving forward. And even without him, you have a pretty damn good, core as well. Kind of on the same track of the Roman Anthony deal. It just kind of seems like this is his MO. Where you don't really hear anything. You don't really hear any rumblings of any contract negotiations. You don't hear any leaks. No, they're far apart. No, they're very close on deal. The same thing with Crochet. It just so happened you wake up one morning, oh shit, sweet. The Crochet signed for 6 years, 180 or whatever it is. And
same thing for Roman Anthony. Chair. I was in a meeting with a client, and I opened up my phone and I got 11 notifications that Roman Anthony signed a notification. I was like, no way. No way this guy signed.
Yeah, if you watch my Zoom recordings at work, you'll probably see me be whisper, oh shit, to myself because Roman Anthony signed this morning. We'll probably hear from HR tomorrow. But it's impressive to watch, especially for someone who, like I said, I keep saying it, the knee-jerk reactions are negative, but on the whole, and if you look back at the broader picture, it's all been positive, and it is to your point, it's a mixture of role players and stars and core pieces.
They have been able to keep a lot of things secret. And Bradley chimes in again, and we kind of really, we knew Rafi was unhappy, but that deal did kind of come out of nowhere. And don't get me wrong, it's fair to criticize Breslow on a few different things. The Devers trade in and of itself, I still think the value wasn't great. But as a whole, he made a comment after that deal that, we're going to look, we might look back and this team has more wins than they would have prior. And he got a lot of heat for that. And it was going to be a comment that, was going to be played over and over and over again if things didn't work out, right? If this team fell off and this team was looking bad, if this team was, 12 games under 500 or hovering around 500 instead of where they are right now, that would be continuously played. And I can't say I hope, because I know it won't be, knowing Boston sports media, but that deserves the praise on the same level as it would have deserved the heat if things weren't going well. That now that things are going well,
Yeah.
the deal itself is still iffy, but there's no denying that this team has been playing at a higher level since they traded Rafi Devers, which is just
100%.
shocking. You trade your best hitter. How does your team get better? The
Yeah.
answer, maybe they weren't bullshitting us when they say that he was bringing down the locker room, right? Like that maybe they weren't bullshitting us. And again, I was also skeptical of those comments. It is like,
I would say
how
look
much
no
we really
further
do.
than the Giants record since getting him. That's
Yeah, and so like it's one of those things where I think we were all skeptical, but you have to give props where props are due, and props are due to Breslow and props are due to Alex Cora. Of the team is playing well right now.
Yeah, 100%.
Whether you traded Devers and how much that did help the team and all that, like that's a different question. You can debate that all day. You have to just look at the results, and then it's that the team is playing at a level that they haven't played at in 7 years?
Since
At least since 2021. Like maybe since 2021, like that year that they made the playoffs, they made a run. That's probably the last time they were playing at this level. I think they were one game better through 115 games.
They were right around the same time.
And that's where it really comes down to for them is like, this is the first time, and I think Breslow made the comment to Cora supposedly something like that Monday night against the Royals, it was like the highest paid attendance that they've had in 6 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Like the fans are back.
They are.
And it makes you a little frustrated because it's like, this is all we've wanted. Like just be good and the fans will be there for you.
Mm-hmm.
And they're here. So it's going to be a fun next 7 weeks ish of the final 7 weeks ish of the regular season.
Yeah.
Everything's in front of them. They got a little bit of more depth. I'm really excited to see potentially some of these young guys in September. I know David Sandlin is working out of the bullpen now, so he might be an arm come September. Garcia shredding down in AAA.
Yeah.
He's getting some first base work. Christian Campbell, 14-game hit streak down in AAA. Is he going to make his way up? They got pieces that when we were talking about at the deadline, and again, it's a wait and see. It could pan out. But we talked about, the Red Sox need a first baseman. They didn't get that.
Yep.
Well, what if that first baseman is Christian Campbell?
Yeah.
What if that first baseman is Garcia?
Yeah.
We felt like maybe they needed another righty bullpen arm. What if that bullpen arm is David Sandlin? Maybe that arm is Peyton Tolley in the rotation.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's Dustin May. Like the Dustin May deal, I thought it was pretty mediocre to, if not bad value. I didn't like that, the value of giving up Tibbs.
I agree.
But I said this at the time of the trade, and I'll say it, like Dustin May was once a elite prospect, and it was for good reason.
Yeah.
He was in working through the injuries in LA. Like when he was getting comfortable, he was very good. And
we all wanted them.
He's having a shaky deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was one of the main guys that was almost here during the Mookie Betts deal.
Yeah.
Right. All the Red Sox fans wanted him.
Exactly.
That he was like the main piece that people wanted. And so, it's a wait and see situation for him. But God forbid Andrew Bailey sees something in him that could tweak and it brings his game to a different level. I don't think that something like that should be ruled out. And, again, it's one of those things like we judge it for how it is. I think it's a mediocre trade at the time. I think as of right now, it's a mediocre ad.
Yeah.
But I think this, for the most part, can only go up from here, right? Like, I guess he could be horrible and it looks even worse. But, like, we already think the deal itself was a mediocre ad. So
bad deal,
he comes out and provides – and he doesn't need to be lights out. But if he's a low 4 ERA pitcher for the next few weeks, 7 or 8 weeks, then we look at that and they're helping him win games, and we look at that. All right, like that's playable, and maybe he's a bullpen arm down the stretch in the playoffs or something like that. A guy that can come in and go 2, 3, 4 innings in a pinch. So
yeah.
I mean, I don't want to get too optimistic. Where we've been talking very positively tonight. I don't want to be too optimistic, but
I know it's me. I never get optimistic.
It's there, right?
It is.
So we'll see how things play out. They play again tonight. Dustin May's pitching tonight, so I'm really excited to see that. Roman Anthony is back in the lineup. I think his presser is right now to announce his deal. Go Sox at that point. We'll leave it at that for them. I do want to transition a little bit into Patriots football. They had their first of 2 joint practices with the Washington Commanders. As I would say Washington, I almost said the R-E-D word. I don't want to say the R word because the R word means something else, but
their former name.
Yeah, their former name. But yeah, I mean, today, there's not a ton you can judge in training camp, but if you're going to make judgments, joint practices is pretty high on the list of it's right up there basically with preseason.
Yeah,
it's pretty close to the same in preseason because and I think it might have been Belichick that used to say this, but a lot of joint practices is almost more better show than preseason games.
Yeah,
right?
it's your first time hitting someone else.
Yeah, and it's organized, and they're doing certain very specific things, and you're getting to see a lot of specific plays because you control what you're looking for, right?
Yeah.
And in early signs today, Drake May supposedly looked pretty good overall, and most importantly to me, Will Campbell looked, from what I heard, I wasn't there, looked pretty good overall, pretty solid. Yeah. He held his own. So, I know he's a 4th pick, so the expectations are very high. But at this point in training camp for a rookie tackle, you don't expect things to be perfect. So, for him to be – and this is the first time, you're playing completely opposite team competition.
You haven't been playing them 4 days in a row.
As much as you're playing it's not like what Patriots defense players are going to do against you. It's just another world when you're playing a different team. It's just a completely different situation. And he seemed to kind of hold up on his own. Jared Wilson, again, all signs point to him earning a starting spot right off the jump. It's entirely possible that Drake May's weak side is 2 rookies, which, damn, that's scary. But
yeah,
if he is, it's because they earned it. Mostly Jared Wilson. Campbell's kind of been
he's
handed the left.
He's been been established for a while, or
but
locked in for a while, I should say.
At the same time, he does have to kind of earn it. If a guy like Verdarian Lowe gets healthy again, and Campbell looked horrible, I don't think that they would just force him out there.
No,
but they've both looked good. Travion Henderson looks as good as you could hope for. The O-line as a whole has looked, I think, average. Which, if they're average,
I'll take average at this point.
Yeah, if they're average this year, that is miles better than it was last year. And not to set the bar that low, but we'll take.
If they're average this year, I might as well call them the '90s Cowboys because they looked horrific. I think it wasn't Felger and Maz. It was before them. Zolak and Bertrand. They had Mike Reese on, and they were just asking him questions about how the O-line looked, kind of similar to what we're talking about. And he was like, good with the lowercase g. They were fine, but they had made the comment about last year's joint practice with the Eagles, where they had 15 sacks given up and 14 completions or something like that. And Mike Reese was like, yeah, they looked like an actual formidable offense this year, both from a line protection standpoint, but also from just a pure offensive game plan. Josh McDaniels, offensive coordinator type thing. So super exciting about that. I mean, obviously, we've just been abysmal on offense for the last 3 years. But the two things that really stuck out to me, at least just from what I watched on Twitter, outside of the O-line stuff, was the D-line with Christian Barmore and Milton Williams looks great. They had Jaden Daniels running pretty much all practice from what I gathered. They had a clip of them both getting up the middle. And then kind of under the radar, but I think it sets the tone for who this team is and what he wants it to be. But it's Mike Vrabel getting involved in that scuffle and getting bloodied up. You having to get pulled off the bottom of the pile there. I think that speaks volumes for if your coach is out there, giving it his all and getting in the scuffle with other players, and he's getting pulled off and he's bloodied up and he's getting all rah-rah. That speaks volumes for what he'll do for that team, and that completely will rile them up and rally them against this team for you. So I think that is going to be an under the radar and underrated piece of at least the joint practice. We'll see if it continues moving forward, but I think Vrabel's just that guy who Mayo certainly wasn't that guy, but Bill was too old to do it. But just a guy to mix it up, guy who's played.
They're going to be ready, right? They're going to be ready. Like that's
of course.
And there was a little talk. I think Greg Bedard kind of ripped Vrabel for it that training camp has been very soft and easy so far for them. They asked like Diana Rossini today about it on Zolak and Bertrand, and she cited Zolak said the same thing, and Beta was kind of fighting against it. It's like that. It's just kind of how the rules are now.
Yeah.
And so I don't. It's tough to like gauge which side is more correct or anything like that. But I'm not necessarily really worried about a Mike Vrabel led team being ready to play.
No.
And Bedard went on to say like he's like that Vrabel's like 2-5 in like opening day, like week ones and stuff like that. So maybe there is a little bit of truth in it, but like as a whole, it's just not something I'm very worried about. I'm not worried about Mike Vrabel's teams being A, ready to play, B, unprepared to play, and C, like I guess this is kind of like outmatched, right? In terms of toughness. They're gonna be ready to come in and play every day because that's the mentality that he brings. So the way I look at it is he's gonna come in the approach of like, if you're not ready to play, you're not playing.
Exactly.
And especially defensively, like we know his expectations defensively, and guys like Barmore and Milton coming in up the middle every day. Those are two guys that have a chance to wreak havoc for this defense.
Totally.
Carlton Davis hasn't been out there much at all, so it's really tough to gauge that. One name that I'm interested to see your thoughts and how things will play out is Kyle Duggar. He has supposedly not looked anything special. There's a lot of whispers, and I heard this specifically from someone that if you follow the trend of Mike Vrabel over the last 6 months since he joined the Patriots, is he's not been afraid to move on from previous era players.
I think that's
we saw that specifically with guys like Bentley, John Jones, Dietrich Wise.
Yeah.
These veteran guys that I don't think there's necessarily like this like extra judgment because of it, but it's a guy that's making a good amount of money right now.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to check what the numbers is if he's cuttable. I don't think he's really cuttable right now. So I don't know if it's a name that you can really bet on them losing out, cutting. But I could see him being traded. I could see him being dumped to a team that needs a safety.
I think I read somewhere where if you cut him, it's a $14 million cap hit, but if you trade him, it's just $4 million. So I agree. I think if you're going to move on from him, it's definitely going to be via trade.
Yeah, and I'm trying to pull up Spotrac's numbers right here, but of course my internet chooses to be kind of shitty when I need it to be on the marker. But it will really. And the question is, do they do it with their depth at safety, which is not a ton, right? Mampu is moving inside to linebacker. Peppers is getting older. They just drafted, I think it's Woodson, right?
Craig Woodson, yeah.
Craig Woodson. They got some of the younger guys like Pets. I'm having a mind blank of one other back there. They have Hawkins. No, Bledsoe's got Hawkins is still there.
Oh yeah.
And so they have some of these young guys, but like there's not a lot back there of that says like, all right, like if they were to move on from Duggar, they'll be fine because they have blank and blank. So I don't know how much I buy into it, but I think he's growing more and more on thin ice. Right.
I agree. I read somewhere that, or I don't know if I read it or was on Twitter, but they have Craig Woodson as the first strings, and Duggar's on the sidelines at the start at least. He's with the twos, so I certainly don't put it past them to look to move him and roll with a young kid at safety, especially if it saves you some money. I mean, not you'd eat some money, but it certainly wouldn't be the same as a cap hit, if you were to cut him. And I'm just looking up.
You're correct. Yeah. So they would save a good chunk of change if they were able to trade him. They would eat dead money over the next few years, but they would also save a ton of money too. I'm trying to see what his cash flow over the next few years, because that tells you his cash value is what it is for a new team. And Spotrac, for some reason, is just not. There it is. Okay, hold on. So his cash value for the next few years is 11, 12 and a half, and 13. So they're pretty they're nothing crazy numbers for a new team, right? $11 million for Duggars this year isn't anything crazy. The question is does another team want him for even that price?
Right.
If they could get a mid to late round pick for him, I could see them moving on for him. The fact of the matter is, unless he kind of brings up his play, he wasn't overly special last year. So if he seemed to have lost a step, that's big for his game, because we know he plays downhill. So if he's playing if he loses a step, he's kind of in trouble. So I can see them moving on from a guy like him. Beyond that, I'm really interested in, and we're seeing it kind of shape out a little bit, is this wide receiver room. At this point, I think the locks, I think, in my opinion, is Stephon Diggs, Jamiro Douglas, Kyle Williams, and Kayshon Boutte. I think those four are basically locks for this team. And now the question becomes, how many do they keep and who is it? You got a guy like Kendrick Bourne, veteran presence, good locker room presence, good guy, making decent money, is cuttable. Where does he play in? And then you got a rookie in Chisholm who is battling. I don't know where if he's going to really play in. But then you got Mac Hollins, who they signed. Are you going to cut a guy you just signed? I kind of lean no, right? So I think he is on the inside looking out, and that would theoretically only leave one other spot, and that doesn't include guys, 2 second-year players in Jalen Polk and Javon Baker. We've heard a little bit of talk over the last 2 or 3 days that Javon Baker has kind of made some strides. He's making some good plays. He got some work with the ones over the last couple of days. Jalen Polk, from what I read, looks decent.
Yep.
And so this is a huge, huge next few weeks for them.
Yeah, totally.
It's an absolute critical few weeks. it at the moment. Where who do you see? Let's say the top four are a lock. I think you agree that. Do you see them keeping two more? In theory, they could keep three more and keep seven guys. It's a little unlikely, but I wouldn't necessarily rule it out. How do you see this playing out at this point? This guess.
I was just doing the math on my fingers, trying to see who they're keeping. So it's Booty. We're assuming Booty is staying. Demario Douglas is definitely staying. Same thing with Stephon Diggs, and then who was the fourth that you mentioned as the lock? Booty, Douglas. Who?
Diggs, Kyle Williams, Booty, and
Kyle Williams. Yep, that's the fourth. So I agree. I think I can't see them cutting Mac Hollins. I think he's pretty much locked in, and everything that we've heard, especially today or the last couple of days, is that he's looked pretty good. So I see them keeping him. Baker, you're right, has been playing with the ones for all intents and purposes, and everything that we've seen sounds like he's been playing a lot better. So then, if you're going to keep him, that leaves those last three. I think just with the trade value that someone like a Kendrick Bourne would have, it's certainly higher than Polk and Efton Chisholm. So maybe you package him with Duggar and maybe look to move those together or move them separately, whatever the case. And then, from there, I think, what does that leave you with 6? Mike Reese seems to think that they're going to keep 7. That's what he was saying today on Zolak and Bertrand, which would indicate that maybe they're keeping Jalen Polk. Again, I'm with you. I haven't heard too much about Efton Chisholm in the last couple of weeks, really since minicamp opened up. He had looked great in minicamp, and ever since then, it hasn't been a whole lot of chatter around him. So if they do keep 7, I think Efton Chisholm and Kendrick Bourne are on the way out, and they keep the rest, just based on what I heard. And I think I'm kind of okay with that. I mean, Efton Chisholm, like I said, he's had a lot of Twitter talk. He's been kind of the man on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. But not a lot of reporters, at least from what I've seen, have come out and said he's making strides or making plays outside of that one from Josh Dobbs. And again, your top 4 are pretty much locked in. So I'm pretty okay with that. And then, Jalen Polk is just your second round pick. I can't see them kind of quitting on him this quickly.
Really tough because it's a new regime, right? So they have no attachments. I mean, granted, Wolf's still here and stuff like that, but it's not like Vrabel, who we kind of believe is the one really in charge of everything, has any attachment to Polk or Baker. Ooh, so if he doesn't like them, it's not like it's a bad look really for him if they go. That being said, I said this online the other day. It's like, if you're comparing, let's say, Polk or Baker to Kendrick Bourne, it's like, all right, what future does Bourne have here?
Yeah.
And the answer is not much. He's a free agent at the end of the year. Like, he's 30. He just turned 30 years old. He's making a decent amount of money. He's going to seemingly be wide receiver 4 at best, right?
Yeah.
At best.
4 or 5 at least.
Yeah, and so it's like, all right, like if we're talking about depth, do we want to keep the older, more expensive depth option, or do we want to keep a guy that, in less control for Bourne, or do we want to keep guys that could play a factor, down the road? Both Baker and Polk automatically have 2 more years of control after this, and are dirt cheap, players. So it's like, I think that they're going to be looking for reasons to keep them over a player like Kendrick Bourne.
Totally agree.
And we talk about, the attachments. Vrabel has no attachment to Kendrick Bourne, none at all. No. Like none literally at all. So it's not like a guy like, Belichick, who I think really grew to love a guy like Kendrick Bourne, because he just works his ass off and he's a good locker room guy and all that. Yeah. But like Vrabel may see that, but Vrabel again has no attachment to any of these prior Patriots, And if we see and it's almost like bound to happen. If we see a team lose a wide receiver or two during training camp or the preseason, a starter goes down or a number 3 goes down, and they're looking for some type of help there. I could see the Pats getting a late round pick for a guy like Kendrick Bourne, because he's only making 5 or 6 million or something like that. So it's not like it's crazy money. But if they, even San Francisco, like Ayuk's out for most of this year probably. Juwan Johnson is seemingly unhappy, and I think he's banged up. So, sending him back to San Francisco could work. Washington, that they're playing right now, we don't know what Terry is. Even with Terry, their wide receiver core has a lot of questions.
Yeah.
A veteran team looking to add depth, obviously, could certainly consider a guy like Kendrick Bourne. And not that you're going to get a 4th or even a 5th, but if you get a 6th to 7th round pick on top of saving money and keeping a guy like Polk or Baker, where younger and they could have a future, it goes back to they have a lot of reasons to try to make Polk or Baker work. And they have minimal reasons to try to make Bourne work over them. And I think that's really what it comes down to when you look at like the big picture of this situation and how it could play out. That's how fans and everyone should really look at it, is they have a ton of reason to try to make Polk or Baker work. And it's not even the main reason that many teams is, and it's like, okay, he was a 2nd round pick last year, so let's try to make it work. Like Belichick kept N'Keal Harry here about 2 years too long because he didn't want to admit that he was wrong about it. So they have a lot of reasons to keep both Baker or Polk or both of them or at least one of them and try to get it to work. I'm still a believer in Baker's talent. I think we really haven't had any opportunity to see it, like if it's really there or not.
All we've seen is just like a preseason game or two.
Yeah. I wasn't a huge Polk guy coming into the draft, but I thought he could be a solid, wide receiver 3. Upside a wide receiver 2, but like wide receiver 3 guy in the NFL. And he could still be that. And so that's really what it comes down to. Even if it's like a small chance that one of those guys hits, it still kind of makes more sense in this scenario than keeping a guy like Bourne that doesn't really have a future here, even if he's solid this year, right?
Yeah, you've been there, done that. You know what he's able to do. I mean, and again, he's not going to be your number 1, 2, or 3. So why not take a chance on someone who's going to be like your 4th or 5th guy anyways, on someone who's cheaper, more control, potentially has, as you said, more upside. I'm in agreement. Like, see what the kids have, and if it's even similar to what you have in Bourne, then it's a win, because you can trade or cut or whatever Kendrick Bourne, and he's not part of your future anyways. And Vrabel doesn't have an attachment, as you said. So I'm in complete agreement. I think there's really no reason to even really think about keeping him. I think it's pretty much set in stone, unless, God forbid, something happens to even this team. But I feel like there's just 31 other teams out there who will definitely need more wide receiver depth, or even a number 2 or 3 guy.
Looking at it, it's Douglas on the inside, Diggs on the one out on one outside, probably at like the Y. No, the
Z.
having a mind blank. Yeah, the Z. I was gonna say the Y's
slot. Kyle Williams at the
X. And probably Booty at the X. Like, is he? You want him as your top X receiver? I don't know. He's looked decent so far.
Yeah.
With Matt Collins moving in with him, everyone knows what Hollins is. He's a depth guy that can stretch the field a little bit. Decent player. And then Kyle Williams, we'll see where he fits in. He could work a little bit inside, a little bit outside. And so, like, Bourne's spot just isn't there. He's not playing over Diggs. He's not playing over Douglas. And I don't think they really want him playing over Kyle Williams right now, right?
Nope.
They're trying to build up. So if that's a scenario, it's like I'd rather keep the younger guy that even if Polk doesn't have a clear spot, I'd rather the younger guy that could potentially earn that spot for the couple of years. And then Baker, there's really the window's wide open for Baker to be like an outside threat for this team. It's not that Booty's terrible, but he hasn't proven to be like a lock starter for this team. And so the window's open for him to potentially earn that spot. So I think it's kind of like a no-brainer that if they are showing that upside, they have to show it, right? It's not like we're just handing it. Baker and Polk, one of the two, if not both, like they have to show it in training camp and on the field that they have that potential. But if they show it, it's like, all right, like we're going to make the smart, logical decision here and go with the younger option.
Yeah, everyone talks about team control. So that, and I think Bourne doesn't necessarily have anything that those other guys don't have already. So it's kind of redundant, and I agree. I think it's give the young kids a shot. Like I said, you've been there, done that with Bourne. So what are you really losing?
Yeah, and so finishing up, and we can branch us into like what's best for Drake May and these young guys and stuff like that. The question is, and I'll pull this question. For the next 10 years, would you rather have Drake May or Jaden Daniels?
Ooh. I mean, it's a great question. I'm going to go with Drake May, but I very much understand why people have said Jaden Daniels. He just went to the NFC Championship. But again, he had a much better core than we had last year and an actual OC. So,
yeah, that and he was 24. Like he was already as developed as you can be for a first year guy. It's a good question because like you sound crazy if you say Drake May based off what we saw.
Mm-hmm.
But when we talk about for the next 10 years, I lean Drake May just because of what I believe in him as a player.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels looked great, but two things with that. One, Drake May's 2 years younger. So like give Drake May, what will Drake May be in his third year of his NFL career? Like, and now he's going to be the same age as Jaden Daniels, just development wise, completely different. And two, I think Drake May is going to be better than he was last year. And I think Jaden Daniels is going to take a little bit of a step back from what he was last year. I think he'll still be good. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's going to be some like big bust or slouch like that. But like, I think he not peaked. That's a bad word. That's definitely a bad word. Not peaked as a player, but like he showed like it's just tough for him to go up from here in his year two, right? Long term, he could maybe still rise a little bit, but like it's tough for him to like really show up in year two to the point where it's that much better than what he was last year because he was great last year.
Yeah, it's similar to CJ Stroud, his first year versus second year.
Exactly.
How much more can you do?
I'm looking, and Stroud's a good example, but like a perfect example of like I'm looking at something similar to that where he played better than Stroud did as a rookie when Stroud was good as a rookie.
Yep.
So I expect him to be a little bit better than what Stroud was last year. But like Stroud went from he was like a top 8 QB, top 10 QB as a rookie, and then he dropped into like the mid tier this past year.
Yeah.
Long term, he could still be a top 10 guy, but that's just kind of the book's out now on Daniels. Teams gets an off season to really learn his game and see how they can approach it. And he's going to have to make the decisions now of like changing up when teams really make adjustments on him.
Not to mention, is Terry McLaurin going to even be there next year? So then you might lose just a 1,000-yard receiver on top of all the things you just mentioned. So
yeah. I mean, we'll see what how that plays out for him. Obviously, that could be a big factor. And if Terry's not there to start the year or beyond, that's a huge hit to that offense. Huge hit to that offense.
Totally.
Now that you lose your number one guy, not only that, like now teams, it's more than just losing a really good player. It's now your second guy gets the number one corner, and your third guy gets the number 2 corner instead of the trickle down effect, and it
Yeah.
just overall is a big hit for them if they lose him. So,
100%.
I just lean Drake May because I still think the raw upside of Drake May is that of a top 3 quarterback in this league. I think he has all the arm talent, the running ability. And when I look at Daniels, he can be very good, and he showed to be very good. But I still am very very skeptical of some very important parts of his game, and those are a lot mentally and certain throws that you will need to be with consistency in the NFL and decision making in the NFL that I think teams, if they start to make adjustments on him, is he going to be able to kind of there? Because the legs are always going to be there, so with his legs in that aspect of things, like there's a floor for him that is probably pretty good. It's just like, is he going to be able to consistently play at a very high, very high level? I think he's going to fall more into the like tier 2 of quarterbacks.
I think
maybe
it comes
the back end of tier 1, and that's what his longer term outlook looks to me. And
agree.
then guys like Drake May, I think, could be in the mid to high tier 1. So it's betting. Obviously, when you ask the question, you're projecting. So I'm projecting Drake May to be a top 5 to 6 quarterback, and I think Daniels can be a top 12 to 10 quarterback. Yeah. They're not going to be far off. They're both going to be good players, but I just see the upside a little bit higher for a guy like Drake May. So
yeah, I think especially long term, when your legs break down, you break down defenses, and I think Drake May will do it better than Jaden Daniels. So
yeah, I mean that when we talk about going into your 30s, that's the concern. But
exactly.
All right, that's gonna wrap it up for this week. We'll be back. Hopefully, Ben decides to change his priorities next week. We will. I'm golfing, I think, with him on Monday, and I'm 1-0 against him on the season. So
there you go.
If I beat him again, there'll be a little bit of chirping.
He's kicked off the show.
Yeah. Oh, I'll let him hear it. We're playing at a course that he plays in a league on Thursday nights, and so he plays the same course every week.
Okay.
So he knows this course inside and out, and I have not played it. So he's got extreme home field advantage.
A lot at stake for him, for sure.
Yeah. So if I go into his territory and knock off a dub, I'm gonna be chirping him a little bit.
Yeah,
he's gonna. I might get like a clown effect, some type of background to put a clown meme on him if he loses. So.
I think you have to. Something like that.
All right. Your own that will be it for this week. We'll be back next week. The Red Sox, maybe they'll be on like a 12-game win streak.
15-game win
at
streak,
that point.
Like that.
Yeah,
that'd be sweet.
We'll be through the Patriots' first preseason game, so we'll have a little bit more insight of how things are running for them as we get closer to opening week. But that's it. So until next week, we're Raise the Banner, and thanks for listening.
See you guys.